The attention of the White Sox big league club and farm system is going to be split now more than ever this upcoming season. So let's sort out how you should go about dividing that time.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm Todd Welter, and welcome to Locked On White Sox, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm a lifelong Sox fan. I've been podcasting here for over 2 seasons, and I've also covered Major League Baseball for outlets such as the Associated Press. On today's show, James Fox from FutureSox's.net joins me to discuss what hurdles Roch Cholowsky must clear at UCLA to lock down being the White Sox top pick after we break down the White Sox international free agent class. But first, let's discuss how much time will need to be divided between paying attention to the big league club and what is going on in the minor leagues. And again, joining me, the editor of FutureSox's.net is James Fox. James, thanks for joining me, man.
Right on, Todd. Thanks for having me, man.
All right, so James, 2024 seemed to be all about what is going on in the farm system and also kind of at the beginning of the 2025 season. Then as more prospects got called up, the attention seemed to shift to the big league club. Now, with the balance of needing internal improvement and still needing to infuse prospect talent, how much time should we spend between still checking in on the farm and kind of what's going on at the big league club?
Yeah, I mean, I think like with what we do, we'll be paying a lot of attention to both. But I do think, there's like 5 prospects that are probably going to be in the high minors that debut this year. I think everybody knows the names, right? Like Braden Montgomery will be in right field at some point. I think we probably see Sam Antonacci too. And then, Noah Schultz, Hagen Smith at some point, and Tanner McDougal, maybe the quickest out of all of them. So, I think it's one of these things where you do have to pay attention to the system like a little bit still. But I mean, nobody should be rooting for like losses per se, right? You should you have all these young guys up on the team now. Kyle Teal, Colson Montgomery, Edgar Caro. Like we should be rooting for the White Sox to win as many games as possible. And then the rest of this kind of happens naturally. So yeah, I mean, look, like they haven't spent, I feel like we want them to, but it should be like the best of both worlds, right? Where we're like rooting for them to win baseball games and they have like an interesting farm system. I will say though, like as these top guys kind of matriculate through, the farm system does skew like a little bit younger after that, right? Because you have like Caleb Bonnemer, who could be a top 50 prospect in baseball. He's going to be at like high A. And then, 2 guys that are in their top 10, Jaden Fauske and Billy Carlson, like they didn't even technically play last year. So those guys are going to be in like Kannapolis. So, I think there's like a lot of guys in the high minors and there's a lot of guys in the low minors. But, like essentially both. I think we have to definitely pay attention to the big league team more so than the last 2 years. It'll be a lot like the second half last year. I feel like that had pretty much everybody's interest.
All right. I like how, though, that you brought up, rooting for as many wins as possible, because my thinking is, and I like that you brought up because it's a way to challenge my thinking. My thinking is 2026 wins and losses still aren't going to matter, but it's a way to measure the progress of the team. Like if they only win 66 games, I do think that that could be a hint of regression. But the way you're saying, hey, try to win as many games as possible because you never know, or is it more just let's see how far this team, this young core can go?
Yeah, I mean, like it doesn't matter necessarily because I don't think they're a playoff team. You'd probably like 70 though. Like it's that's a pretty, like in the 70s would be great because then you could really, and I know like we have like an impending lockout and all that, but you could really start talking about like pushing in a little bit then, right? And like moving to the competing side rather than just like worried about prospects and losing. So, I mean, they spent money on Munetaka Murakami. I just, I don't know how good the starting pitching is, but I mean, you do have like young guys that you're interested in watching, right? So, yeah, like I think you want those guys to play well, and if they play well, they'll win more games than they have been the past few years.
Do you think there is a possibility that Sam Antonacci or say Tanner McDougal do break camp with the big league club, or is it like they are destined for the minors?
I don't think anybody breaks camp with the big league club just because I think they try to get the extra year of control on like everybody. I think they'll sell it as Tanner's like competing for a spot, and then he goes to Charlotte, and then he could be the first guy in. I don't really know like what else they need to see from him necessarily. I mean, he hasn't pitched at Charlotte yet. I don't know how important they feel like that is. For whatever reason, they wanted to see Schultz at Charlotte. I think they wanted to see like the more advanced hitters, and then he was kind of hurt anyway. I'm curious, just like on our end, like the Future Sox type of thing angle. Just like are Schultz, Smith, and Tanner McDougal in the AAA rotation, or are some of them in Birmingham? That's what I'm interested to see. And then Antonacci like could come quickly. He's interesting though, because he's like so similar to Chase Mydroth, and I just don't know that you can play both of those guys consistently.
Yeah, and that was actually the next question I was going to have, because I know you and Ian talked about it on a Future Sox podcast episode about how they are very similar, with Antonacci having a little bit of pop, but with his, it seems like he has the better ability to get the bat on the ball, get more hits, where, Mydroth is more the walk guy. So does this put Chase Mydroth on thin ice? Is he basically in a prove-it year already with Antonacci on his heels?
I don't think so. I just think you might have to choose one. Like, I think there's like some fans out there that think that like you can play one of them at second and one of them at like third. It's just like not enough power. Like you can't have 1,200 plate appearances and like 10 homers out of like 2 spots, right? It's just they're very, very similar players. And Antonacci's lefty, so like if you'd rather have a lefty, I guess he could be the priority over Mydroth, right? But we've seen Chase Mydroth in the big leagues, and I do think he's going to be like a big part of the club. So I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. But Antonacci's interesting. I mean, he might sneak onto the back of some top 100 lists.
Yeah. Noah Schultz, on the MLB pipeline came out that he has the most to prove among the left-handed starting pitchers in the top 10. Were you kind of startled by that? Because even I was looking at him like, there's some guys on that list that still have to prove that they might even be a starter.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. The whole Noah Schultz thing is weird. I mean, Baseball America's done it too. It's something me and Ian have kind of talked about. Like, I don't know if it's because we know Noah Schultz well, and, we like kind of know the family and we watched him come through. Like, Noah Schultz was hurt last year. Like he was pitching with patellar tendonitis like the entire year, which I attribute like a lot of his struggles to that. I kind of think last year was a wash. The issue for me last year was the innings. He didn't throw enough innings because of those injuries. But like I don't know. I don't really care that he had a 5 ERA. Like I just like if he's healthy, I think he's gonna be fine. We were kind of talking about this too. Like when we put our top 30 list together, we do like individual lists, but then we make like the one big one. He's still going to be one in the system for me. I can't move him based off of like him being hurt last year. I mean, he could be in the rotation by mid-May in Chicago, and everybody will just kind of forget that last year even happened.
Now, can you do a service again and just remind everybody, if Noah Schultz goes down, he's going to AAA, if he has a higher ERA, that's fine because it's a bandbox, correct? We should be looking at the whip, the walks, that type of stuff, correct?
Yeah, it's really hard to pitch there. To the point where like some guys they don't even send there. Like it's because it just like doesn't. Yeah, it's like if you look at Pacific Coast League stats for hitters, the International League's kind of similar to that right now. Some of the bandbox ballparks. So it doesn't really. I don't really care about stats in Charlotte that much.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said like if they do have a low ERA, that is very impressive. Look at the low ERA, but if it's high, pivot to the other stuff, because especially how those dimensions. I mean, hitting the ball to right field is practically easy. I mean, that was one of the things they were saying about Colson. He was just driving it when he did get it. So it's that type of stuff where I just needed that PSA from another person, because I've been trying to preach that too. And you were the one that taught me about it too. So the White Sox announced their international signing a couple of days ago. So let's get a breakdown with James, and that's coming up next. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. And I've used TurboTax in the past with how my income is mixed between W-2 and 1099 income. It was well worth it, as they took care of crunching the numbers for me and saving me a ton of time. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150, all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointments today. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. You get access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On White Sox compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. You'll also get an invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. And I would love to talk White Sox baseball with you in the Discord chat, especially once the season starts, as we can discuss what is happening on game day, whether we love what's going on or loathing it. Go to lockedonwhitesox.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. Here with James Fox of FutureSox.net, and if you're not checking them out for prospect news, I don't know what to tell you. They do the best work in terms of White Sox specifics. And James, again, where can we find all your great content?
Yeah, just FutureSox.net. We have our own our YouTube channel as well, and then I'm on Twitter at JamesFox917 or at X, whatever.
And the best thing about James, when he does a hot take, if he's wrong, he'll easily admit it and say, "Okay, I was wrong."
Yeah, I don't delete tweets. Like, it's kind of lame. Like, it said in my bio says mundane sports opinions, so it's kind of whatever.
Well, the thing that I've always given you credit, you're a good sport about it too. So that's the other thing. So I know it's going to take years before we see if this international free agent class produces anything, but in terms of the process, are you impressed that they basically targeted the Dominican and Venezuela?
Yeah, finally. I mean, and here's the thing, like this is still like a Marco Patti class primarily. Just like the way that these things are 3-4 years in advance. It's technically David Keller's first full class, but it's not really. I mean, the two guys at the top, Fernando Graterol, Sebastian Romero, catcher, center field, at least, right? Both are like $1.5 million. Both are kind of interesting. We'll see how good they are, but yeah, I mean, at least they're like up the middle players. But these were guys who had commitments for years, like in the, in a Marco Patti class. Now, the one thing that's different about this class, we kind of talked about this on our show a little bit. No older Cubans, which is good, right? And the one thing they're skewing more towards finally is like up the middle players, shortstops, center fielders, pitchers. Marco Patti had a big time proclivity for, they would sell out to like get guys that hit for power, but like they'd all end up as like first baseman. And then if you don't hit for enough power, like you're basically nothing. So even like some of the signs early, and we can get into some of the players if you want, but like I like how much pitching they've attacked. I think pitching in the international market's like a bit of a market inefficiency because these guys aren't agreeing to deals when they're 12 years old, like some of the hitters are. You can get them a little bit later. They're cheaper. They're like $300-400K. And they really pop sometimes, like the Astros got really good at this for a while. That's where they got Framber Valdez and Christian Javier, because like pitchers are just on the market, for a longer period of time and they sign later. So it's almost easier to like find good ones. So yeah, like I'm kind of happy the direction they're going. There's all sorts of rumors about 27, 28, 29, 30. If the system stays the same, it seems like, something you've kind of been talking about, Todd, when you have me on. I think they're trending towards the way that we want them to, like in future classes under David Keller, which I think is good.
Yeah, let's talk about the pitchers here. I mean, they get the kid that can fire almost at 100 miles an hour, but and it seems like he's going to be the potential crown jewel. Is he the guy that we should definitely be paying attention to, that we're going to be seeing in the majors at some point with the way that he can throw? Or who else could potentially have a shot to get to the big leagues? Or are a lot of these guys just going to be scratch off prospects that get traded for Cam Boucher?
Yeah, I mean, they're all scratch. I mean, here's the thing. Like, even if they turn into guys you can trade, it's a good class. I think when you're trying to win, you need international guys that get stateside. You need guys in high A and double A. Like, a lot of these guys don't make it out of A ball and like they're just like gone forever. Roderick Ramirez is interesting. He's already kind of pumping mid-90s. They think he's going to be able to like throw 100 at some point. He was originally a Padres signee. And they let him back onto the market for whatever reason. I don't know if they were out of money or they overcommitted or whatever. And the Sox recently agreed to a deal with him. Like I think it was like last March or so, for $400,000. He's pretty interesting. I mean, to the point where like every 6 days or so, check the DSL box score. and see what we can get on a Roderick Ramirez. And then somebody else who was like labeled as a sleeper is Frankel Crisostomo, is a right-handed pitcher from the Dominican Republic as well. He's like not as imposing. I think he's like a smaller guy, like 160-pound guy or whatever. But Francis Romero, who does great work, he highlighted him as like one of his sleepers. So that's interesting. And then the guy that David Keller brought up that's also kind of been highlighted is Felix Lebron, shortstop out of the Dominican Republic. It seems like he could sneakily be like the best position player in the class. And he was only signed for like $300,000, like something along those lines. So he's already gotten he's kind of getting comped early to Noelvi Marte of the Cincinnati Reds. Just loads of athleticism, similar traits at the same age, similar right-handed swing, with speed. And there was an evaluator that told Jesse Borek of MLB Pipeline that he could be the long-term answer at third base, which, you know, I don't think I would go that far with any like teenage Dominican, but it's at least interesting that like guys are talking about some of the White Sox guys as sleepers.
Let's circle back though to Cuba really quick, because I know they still actually, you know, they have the reputation of going all the way back to the days of Minnie Minoso, but you're right. Unless they had like a true body of work like Jose Abreu or Luis Robert Jr., I'm kind of fine with them obviously tapping into that, but it's like go to where the real talent is, the consistent talent. That seems to be a lot of spins in the Dominican and a lot of spins in Venezuela, where at Cuba, it just seems like, you know, it's really hard to get those spins because these guys rarely become available sometimes.
Yeah, and Cuba's kind of watered down. There's like not as much talent there as there used to be. So like holding your money back to like sign guys out of Cuba that are a little bit older, like is not a great strategy anymore. And it's one that I'm glad that they've kind of gotten away from. You know, they were really severely lacking in the Dominican Republic under Marco Patti at the end. And the Dominican Republic's where like all these kids are from. So that's like, you know, one of the big initiatives from David Keller is like reestablishing like a foothold in the Dominican Republic. They've got a bunch of kids this year from there. My guess is their future classes are very, very Dominican heavy. They do have a new facility they're building that should be ready in 2027, which is twofold. Having the new facility is great, and it like will help them attract players. The other thing it does, it's big enough to house like a ton of players, so they'll have 2 DSL teams finally. I mean, it's something I've asked for like a decade now. I thought they've needed 2 Dominican Summer League teams like a lot of organizations do, and they haven't. And they don't have anywhere to keep all the players. Now they will. So I think that's like something kind of significant going forward.
In the third segment, I do want to get your take on actually the overall labor negotiations. But one of the things that may come up is the potential international draft. Do you think that is anything possible that's going to happen in the next CBA, or is it like, hey, we got to get a salary cap? You know, that's the biggest thing, you know, that they're gonna try to go for.
I mean, like an international draft is probably a good idea, but selfishly, now that David Keller is employed and now that there's room, I mean, look, the White Sox are supposedly have a $6 million agreement with a kid in 2030 who's the top player in the class. Like, as gross as it is to be signing middle schoolers, right? Like, this is kind of the name of the game. 2029, they have a $4 million agreement with a guy. So honestly, like, I hope there's no international draft because the White Sox are finally getting good at this. But I'm with you a little bit. Like, I do think that'll get so far on the back burner that it'll get right up against like, you know, oh, we're just not going to deal with any of this stuff so they can play like 162 or whatever, kind of like last time, where it probably won't change in my opinion. It's definitely like one of the things on the list. I don't think the MLBPA cares about it enough to like fight for it.
All right. Anyone else you'd like to see sign with the remaining? Because what they got, I think you tweeted 500K they got left over in the remaining bonus pool money.
I think they have more than that. I think they might have close to 800,000. No, I mean, look, if there's nobody to sign, then, you know, then trade the unused space for guys that you like.
All right. Well, the White Sox have the number 1 pick in the 2026 draft. Let's get James' take on what hurdles Roch Cholowsky has to clear to make sure he is the pick come July, and that is coming up next. Welcome back to Locked On White Sox, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and the number 1 sports podcast network. Shout out to all the everydayers. I appreciate your loyalty. And if you haven't yet, sign up for the Everydayer Club. You can go to lockedonwhitesox.supercast.com. You get an ad-free audio podcast of the show and an invite to a members-only Discord chat where we can talk White Sox baseball. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox, or wherever you get your audio podcasts, as we're on places such as Apple or Spotify. And make sure to check out my written content at SouthsideSox.com or on TapSportsNet.com. Now, James, one of the things that I should have actually prefaced this is also how much time should we be spending watching college baseball, because it starts in a few weeks. And Roch Cholowsky sounds like, a potential as close to generational talent as you're going to get recently, at least with 65 grade talent. What hurdles does he have to clear in your mind to be that surefire number one pick? Because I've only got a few. Just don't be Chase Laviolette.
Yeah, I mean, don't like get hurt like a ton, right? Like, and even like it would depend on what the injury is, right? And he's probably still go. He's so solid that I don't really know what's gonna change it at this point, right? I think there's like always a chance that, for whatever reason, like Grady Emerson explodes and he's just, this unbelievable Bobby Witt type, like high school guy that's like tough to pass on. Like, I guess like that's possible. I don't really think anybody in the college class though can pass Roch at this point, because he's just so solid. I mean, you said it, it's like 360 grade tools with like the defense and plus power and speed too. I don't know. And the thing for me is like, how high of a ceiling does somebody else have to have for you to pass on like the floor and proximity to the majors of Roch Cholowsky, right? Because you're talking about a guy who you would take, he would go right into your system. He could potentially finish at AA and be in the big leagues by midseason 2027. Like, I mean, it's just, it seems kind of like a no-brainer. They have 7 months. We have a whole season to do. Like, things could change. But this one seems like pretty easy at this point right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to wish ill will on the guy. It's just, everybody that is got this for sure. And I know you're not saying that, but this for sure, like, this is the guy. Like, the season still has to play out, right? I remember Chase Laviolette. I think I had you on the show. We were talking about, this guy, he was like the third number, he was potentially a number one overall pick, and then he just bombed. So that's the thing with Chase. And you're right. I like that you brought it up, because like Justin LeBron, for example, he has his own interesting unique skill sets, but you kind of got the wheels turning in my mind that, man, he would like almost have to have like the greatest Golden Spike season, in my opinion, then to pass Roch.
Yeah, and I think there's like, look, there's a chance that somebody, unlikely, right? But a chance that somebody goes all Paul Skeens, right? And there's just some pitcher. I just don't think the Sox are going to do that. They know Roch Cholowsky really well, to the point where I think they've caught themselves. Like, look, I was a little bit surprised how much they've been willing to talk about him so far, right? And he's like, not even, you would think like it would be a little bit more coy than it's been. And they haven't really hidden from the fact that, like, look, they considered signing him a couple years ago out of high school, and he wanted to go to UCLA. Like, they know him really well. He's an Arizona kid. He was a 2-sport athlete, shortstop, quarterback out there at Hamilton High School. That's where their spring training site is, near their, they know Roch Cholowsky really well. I do think White Sox fans should be, checking out UCLA baseball if they can.
Yeah, Big Ten Network. Connor McKnight will probably be calling the games. I know he was, really pumping him up when I was down at Podcast Row. But if Roch does have some struggles, you kind of said Grady Emerson or Justin LeBron. I mean, who do you think would be the backup plan?
Sure, I think Grady Emerson probably. He's a high school player, so that's the other thing. Like, will they feel pressure to get a college guy that can fit in with your young core, right? Because we talked about 5 guys at the beginning of this show that could theoretically be on the big league team by midseason this year. You add that to the guys who we all know, Teal, Caro, Mydroth, Colson Montgomery. You have Munetaka Murakami now. It's a pretty interesting team, right? So, like, even if Grady Emerson's awesome, it's still probably 2.5 years for a high school guy, whereas Roch's like a lot closer than that. Now, look, you're going to take the best guy. Whoever the best guy is, they'll take. Right now, it seems difficult for me to see that being anybody other than Roch Cholowsky.
So I know a lot, you and the other guys at FutureSox.net were really pounding, hey, the bonus pool money, all the flexibility. But just what you just said right there, doesn't all that bonus pool money also give you the flexibility to take the best player available, not the best player economically? Because say like with Roch, let's say he does somehow the Giants say, we'll give you this money and he wants to go there. You could easily say, I'll give you more.
You could, and you can just take him and make him sign, like, because he's not going to go back to school, right? So, like, basically, their bonus pool space at number one is going to be like 11.3 million or so, right around there. The most money anybody's ever gotten in this new system is 9.3. So even if you gave him $10 million, right, you would break the record by 700,000, and you'd still have like an extra 1.3 million to spend throughout. Like, this is really not something to work. Now, the Rays, I know I tweeted about it. Like, the Rays are going to have 20 million. And the Pirates, I think, will have 19 and they'll only have 18. So, like, yes, like in theory, another team could potentially drive the price up, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to take him. It just means that you might have less money to spend later because you had to pay more than you wanted to. But it's not like you're paying full slot at one. Like, nobody's ever done that before. Like, they'll go under slot at one, and they'll pay the biggest bonus of all time.
Yeah. And then maybe they'll go over slot. I mean, because that's where the money is definitely going to come in and roll. Pick 2 and 3. That's where I think that, you want to get excited, because even in the last draft, they were able to go over slot with Jaden Foskey, but then didn't they have to go lower floor or lower ceiling, high floor with Kyle Odisi, if I remember correctly?
Right. And then they went over again in the 4th, though. So they did it in the past too so Caleb Bonham was $3 million in round 2. That's like top 25-ish money. So in theory for you here, like, say they have the 42nd pick and that pick is worth, I don't know, like 2.8, right? I mean, you could sign a $4 million player there, which is like a top 23, 24 player in the class in theory by just money. So yeah, that's the big thing. It's, you get the best player at the top, but you also like save money to spend in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th. It's how teams with extra picks load up on high school guys, because they have the money to do it.
I like a tweet that you just had out recently about the labor negotiations, because I love how The Athletic is just contradicting itself. They had one report where, well, it might not be bad, and then you got another report where the owners are going scorched earth. What do you think happens after the 2026 season? We go into the lockout. Are we going to have a full season? Are we going to have maybe the season starting in May? I don't think it's going to be as apocalyptic as everybody's thinking, because what I think a lot of people are forgetting is there's levers that the player union can pull, like sue the league, force mediation. Other PAs have, other players associations have done it, like the NHL and the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I'd still bet against missing games. I think it's going to be ugly, and there's going to be a lot of rhetoric, and it's going to suck, and the players are going to get locked out. And I think it'll be similar to last time, where you'll miss a big chunk of spring training, and then all of a sudden everybody will rush into camp and be playing within 72 hours. And then they'll put a schedule out and baseball will be played. And the system will be similar to the system that they're in now. I think there are some obvious things, like they do have to change, some of the deferred money stuff that the Dodgers are doing. It's just something that like a lot of teams aren't able to do. I think you make the penalties steeper on the high end of the luxury tax, but you also raise that price higher so these teams can spend more, but the penalties larger. And then you got to do something to incentivize like the smaller market teams to spend more. It's the thing that I think people aren't really comprehending about a salary cap, right? It's like the players don't want it. They're probably not going to ever vote for it. But again, like the salary cap, like I don't think the small market owners want a salary cap either. They think they do, but I don't think they realize like the spending floor would probably be higher than like anything they are willing to spend right now. And I just like don't think these people are willing to do that. It's a big business right now. Baseball's very popular. If these guys were losing money, they'd sell their teams, and they're not selling their teams. So I don't know. I just feel like holding out for a salary cap, like by any means necessary, is like nuts to me, because you're going to miss, games. And if you miss games, nobody gets paid. And I just like don't think these guys are prepared to do that.
Yeah, I mean, the only time that I think the owners ever really went that hard was when they literally had no chance to make money, and that was during the pandemic. They weren't going to attract anybody into the stands because most places were not allowing anybody in. This case, you are still going to get television money if you play. You are going to get fans in the seats, that type of stuff. So I agree with you. I could see maybe an apron system too into the CBT, because what people don't understand too is like the NBA technically has a salary cap, but as you said, the floor is high and you can go above it. So maybe you have that type of system. It's just, to me, it's still like these fans, and even I've had Sox fans come on saying like, well, you know, we want to have a chance for everybody to be competitive. Well, unless you start sharing your local revenue like the NFL does, you're still going to have an unequal system.
Yeah, I mean, the players don't get enough of the pie. I don't know how to fix that, you know? I mean, like a salary cap probably would fix that for them. The problem is like the other stuff we talked about with the salary cap, right? A salary cap's not going to make the teams that don't want to spend. It's just not. Like if you're a bad team and you feel like tanking, like you can get to that salary number like without trying, right? Like you could grab Andrew Benintendi from the White Sox and raise your payroll, but not exactly try to win. It's just not. I don't know. I don't really think like the salary cap is this thing that's just going to like fix the sport like most people seem to think right now.
Yeah, well, you just brought up the NHL. We're living with it with the Blackhawks. That's what the Blackhawks have been doing for years now. I mean, they've been tanking on purpose, and then they're grabbing, like, they got what, Shea Weber on their books right now.
Yeah, you get a contract. You like buy a contract to get a 4th round pick, basically,
yeah,
or something. So, you know.
Make sure you subscribe to Locked On White Sox on YouTube at Locked On White Sox, or follow or subscribe at wherever you get your audio podcast so you'll get all the latest episodes. The show is on places such as Apple or Spotify. You can follow the show on X, formerly Twitter, at Locked On Sox or at Todd J. Dub. You can also find the show on TikTok at Locked On White Sox. You can also email me your questions and comments to lockedonwhitesox@gmail.com. And if you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On White Sox ad-free, plus a members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonwhitesox.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure your second listen is Locked On MLB.